Have you ever wondered how it feels like to have emotional freedom? How it is to be not dragged down by anything that is in your emotional baggage, but kind of feeling light and free and almost careless, like having this joyous energy of fun and everything that life is kind of supposed to be? I know that for many years, that was not the reality for me. Everything was heavy, everything was kind of dragging me down. Life was not fun. Life was a chore. Life was a burden. Before I noticed that this can be changed, and before I actually did the right things. So today, I look back and am thankful that I was able to create a new life for me, that I was able to take the path with the help of other people who showed me a new way, a different method, something that has profoundly shaken me to the core and reshapes my life every single day. In today's episode, A Path to Emotional Freedom, we will have a look at exactly 2 methods that work wonders. Hello and welcome to the Exaltify Me Podcast. I'm Nenad Leonart, I'm your host, and we are talking here about all the things around inner work. Everything that goes in depth, everything that is going to profoundly change the way that you look at the world, how you behave towards yourself, ways to create self-love, ways to fall back in love with life again. This is what it's all about. I got into this pretty early in my life. Already with 10, 11, 12, I guess I kind of self-diagnosed with depression. I already talked like a very disillusioned grown-up person. I kind of had to grow up really fast because of my family situation. So I remember writing this essay, and my German teacher, after correcting this essay, he kind of took me aside and out of the classroom and then asked me are you okay? Because I was clearly describing depression in my essay that I wrote. And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, that's what life is supposed to be, right? It's kind of sucky now that we are not kids anymore. We can't play. We can't do anything. Kind of yeah, I'm fine. He was like, are you really fine? And I was like, yeah, sure. I'm fine. Fast forward a couple years later, I felt really heartbroken. My parents were going through divorce. I was just feeling really, really bad. And then I started going to psychotherapy to kind of help me grapple with the first concepts of what is actually possible with psychology, who we are, how our psyche works, and so on. So these were first steps that I took towards self-reflection. And I kind of became more and more self-reflected by reading a ton of self-help books. I stumbled across the self-help movement. It was very inspiring to me, to be able to change so that I can shape my personality, I can shape my future. And then I did that for quite some time until, again, I got a little bit sidetracked. I didn't pay as much attention to myself. And also, if you have gone this path as well, you know how easy it is for our minds to trick us into believing something, to trick us that we are on the right way or on the right path. Well, years later, I found myself drinking too much alcohol on a regular basis, when I'm out with friends. That was my surrounding. Basically, I studied music and with artists. You know how it is. And if you don't know, well, they do drink a lot. And I was still one of the people drinking the least. And yet I think that was in very, very unhealthy levels. I started smoking. I picked it up, I think, when I was 21 years old. Most of the people were already smoking there. And I kind of resisted it for a couple years. But then I gave in. And I stopped doing exercise, which I loved. I stopped going out for walks, which I loved. And I kind of got to be more and more this depressing grown-up person again that was supposed to be an artist and work with art, which is a great thing to do, and yet it was more and more dragging me down. And I felt like, why is that happening? How can I be at the place in my life where I kind of am developing, and yet it all feels harder? And it's all giving me less and less joy. What's the point? And also, am I not doing like the right things? Am I not learning about myself and self-reflecting and changing? Well, no, that's the easy answer. I will not go more into that. Simply no. What is going on with all of us is that we are in a type of prison of our own psyche. And there's certain mechanisms that are happening that are preventing us from seeing the reality, and that are also kind of the boss of us. They're just making us do all these things in life, and we have no idea why it's happening, where it's even coming from, because we haven't been taught. We have been taught to be, try positive thinking, focus on this, focus on that, but we never ever have really been taught on how to deal with emotions, and especially how to deal with it in a very holistic grown-up level. So there I was, at the end of my 20s, I felt really, really bad. And I needed something to free me from that. Like, my life came to a point where it wasn't really giving me anything that I wanted out of life. So I kind of had to go and try out different things and figure it out, because I felt like I'll do anything at this point. I'll do anything. Like, whatever it takes, I want to change this situation that I'm in, because it's just so unbearable. Whatever it takes. And then I took the first steps, and I discovered this thing where it's about trauma, and it's about the things that happened to us long, long, long ago, and there's kind of the emotions that we packed up and that we don't want to think about, and we just threw them all away in a very deep, dark corner of our subconscious mind and just pretended that that isn't happening. Well, today I'll talk to you about two different and distinct methods how to actually find a path to emotional freedom. Like, that helped me revamp my whole life. I'm a very different person now. I kind of do look the same, and my voice hasn't changed much, although the way that I express myself, the way that I feel joy in my life, the way that I kind of live every day, it is very different today than 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I remember just getting up and trying to get by and just wanting this day, like to end, just so that I can finish the things that I need to finish and just turn off my mind and play some video games or hang out with friends or do something just to keep my mind off feeling myself, of being in the actual situation. And like, the first step towards deepening my relationship to myself was learning about the letting go process. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And then after that, going even a level deeper with IOPT, which is identity-oriented psychotrauma therapy. Now, both of these have not just transformed my life, how I am with myself, like my relationship to self, and also my relationship to others. It has transformed everything that I do, like why I do it with, again, it's the emotional freedom, how I do these things, my motivation, my energy levels. And also that gave me the kick to really go out and share this with others and to teach others to find this beautiful, beautiful solution to a problem that we were kind of born into, and then we never really got the tools to deal with it. And I know that like this is at the core of our civilization. There's so many people that are struggling with this. So many of us, and especially with all the new technology, everything that's happening, it's so easy for us to go and escape ourselves. Go on a video game spree, or just go and watch porn, or just, connect with people online so that you don't have to have real human interaction. And then you can say whatever you want about whoever you want. And like things got really bad and really extreme. And it's not getting better. So a lot of people have this need, and I see it all around me. Everybody's getting more and more lost, and the world is kind of in this very weird space where you don't even know what's going on in the world. Everything feels kind of a little bit off, and people are afraid. And I kind of had this, it was like an epiphany, it was like a moment of clarity where I just realized that's all a construct, that's all like a game. It's a system where everybody is in like a huge hamster wheel. Everybody's trying to go and push through, and yet it's not working. And nobody out there, like not the politicians, not the corporations, not anybody who has any kind of influence in this world, nobody wants you to understand what's going on. Because once that you understand what's going on, you can take the power back. You can be yourself again. And that is why you are not as easy or as susceptible to buy products you don't really need. Sign up for a service that is not really fitting to your personality. Or go and vote for someone who is not actually representing your interests. So if you see here and understand why, like, maybe part of the rich elite or like politicians or big corporations don't want this to happen, we can say it's a conspiracy theory. You can also acknowledge that it makes much more sense for them to keep you in the dark so they can profit off of you. And most people are starting to catch on. They just don't know how to escape it. And this is the recipe, like the how-to. That's the actual few people who are gonna go and take this step, how-to. And these are the ones that are going to change the world, because they understood that by changing themselves first, that is how they can create huge change. Yet I digress. Let us talk about the two methods. Let's talk about letting go and IOPT and why I think they're so important, how they have reshaped my life and the lives of other people around me, people that I studied with, people that I did coaching certifications with. I'm, by the way, certified in both methods. So I'm an instructor for TML, which is Transformation Mastery Live, which is a program that is teaching the letting go technique. And also I'm certified as an IOPT practitioner. We'll get into that in a second. Now, let's look at why these methods are transformative and kind of important for emotional healing and self-discovery. To do that, let's define those, what they are. Letting go, it's the practice of releasing suppressed emotions. It's about releasing limiting beliefs and also letting go of your need to control. This is, by the way, based on the Sedona method, which was founded by Lester Levinson in the 1950s. IOPT, the identity-oriented psychotrauma therapy, This was funded by Franz Ruppert, who is a psychology professor in Munich, and he's still developing it. So it's been a couple decades already. This is being practiced, and he's still refining the method, finding new details that are making it even more efficient, and creating just a better version, like updates. Every year there's new updates, new discoveries, and this is kind of the pinnacle of research in this form of trauma therapy, which I find to be particularly exciting, especially since I was able to practice it for a while now, and it is absolutely mind-blowing. So this is a therapeutic approach that comes from psychology, which is focused on uncovering and healing identity fragmenting traumas. So let's go first into the concept of letting go, and then we'll talk about IOPT and also how these intersect and maybe complement each other. The concept of letting go is all around emotional awareness. It's about being present and noticing what's going on inside. The core is about recognizing suppressed emotions and acknowledging them instead of resisting them. So a lot is based around resistance. When you're letting go of something, it's meaning the letting go of resistance to feeling or experiencing a certain thing. It's also about releasing attachment to outcomes and also releasing attachment to external validation. Now, oftentimes we have situations like we're looking forward, to this amazing food in a very specific restaurant that you love to have, and then you're completely hyped up and go there and want to have that food, and it arrives and you're tasting it, it's just maybe not as great. Or let's say when you're dating and you meet this person and you think, wow, they are really, really, really great. You haven't met them in person, but you feel like this is it, right? And then you go and you meet them, and then maybe you notice like it's not matching exactly the expectations that you had. So a lot of that goes back to expectations. And by expecting a certain outcome in the future, we are making it impossible to live in the present. It's all about the present moment. When you are present, you can actually feel what's going on. And that is also a huge part of being able to let go. When you can be present, you are actually allowing yourself to experience the present moment and all the sensations that are attached to it, instead of stuffing them down, instead of resisting them, or trying to feel something else or to be someone else. It also means embracing imperfection. Looking back at the food example or the relationship example, the dating example, like you could go there and be just appreciating the person for who they are, and they're imperfect because everything is imperfect. And yet when you allow these imperfections to be present, when you allow everything to be okay as it is, then you are in the present moment. And by doing that, you can feel the happiness of existence. Like the pure form of existence, it's just there at your fingertips, and it is beautiful. Looking at it as a practical example, imagine yourself having this heavy backpack. And the older you get, the more stuff you put into that backpack. Here's an experience. here's another memory, here's another thing. And instead of allowing those things to just be, instead of allowing us to experience them, oftentimes we want to shape our experience of life. We want to feel one thing that's awesome and great, but we don't want to feel the bad things. We don't want to have all these kind of negative sides to life. So what we do is we kind of stuff these away. And we think it's done with stuffing them away, but they're actually still there in ourselves. And we are needing a significant part of energy to stuffing those down just because we're resisting these emotions. That is what letting go is built upon. So you, by resisting these emotions, you're kind of filling up the backpack, and it's getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And that's what Lester Levinson said. Like, he has this book which is called Happiness is Free. And I mean, you can take days to read the whole book, or you can listen very carefully in the next 15 seconds and completely understand what it is about. Because he says, once that you realize that you are resisting happiness, and you're resisting it by carrying all that burden with you, because you're not accepting yourself as you are, you're not accepting life as it is. Once that you accept it, you have the pure bliss of existence. And that is ultimately happiness. Once you understand how to be present and not living in the past or the future, when you learn that skill of just being, that's a wonderful place. And everything else that you thought you needed to carry, all these expectations of other people, all these expectations of yourself towards yourself, they are released. And you're able to be your authentic, true self. How cool is that? Let's talk about the technique of how to let go. I'm not going to go into detail here. We're doing complete workshops on this topic. But just a very simple explanation is, first you need to identify what is holding you back. And that you do with deep work, with inner work, with shadow work. You go deep inside your subconscious, you figure out what's going on there, and you identify these kind of resisted emotions, things you'd rather not think about, things you want to rather suppress, right? And then once you've identified them, it's about accepting. It's about accepting who you are. It's about accepting these emotions, these sensations that are in there. And then, while starting to feel them, just also breathe into them and welcome them, allow them to happen. Once you do that, that's kind of like the basis of letting go. That's the basis of the Sedona method that you are able to practice everywhere where you are. Like, you can do it real time, and you can be kind of free with everything that's going on around you. Today, like when I get into some intense situations, but also when I go into like surroundings that are not the best ones for me to be in, like let's say I do an ice bath, or let's say I go to the sauna. So these are like extremes, right? I notice how just by regulating my breath and by not resisting the situation, by allowing myself to experience what's going on outside, I'm much more with the flow. And this doesn't take me any energy at all. And this is actually helping me grow as a person, because obviously exposing yourself to extreme temperatures, it's very good for the immune system. It's good for very many different things going on. And by being able to regulate that with your breath, I mean, there's also a lot to be said about breath work and Wim Hof breathing and so on. This is a miraculous thing. Just by accepting and helping that accepting out with the breath as well, like deepening it, we are able to withstand and to be very resilient and to be very fluid also as human beings. And that is a quite easy and yet such a smart strategy to not have to have a huge, heavy backpack that you carry around with yourself all the time. Let's talk about IOPT. IOPT was something that I went into not so long ago. I actually had a period of my life where I was having a lot of symptoms after my long COVID. So I felt extremely tired. My body felt really, I was aching all the time. I had no energy to do anything. I had to sleep a lot, but my sleep was bad because of all the pain that I was having. And I started out doing different kinds of therapies. And one of the therapies was a traditional Chinese method. Now, this woman one day sends me like one presentation by this German guy. He was holding the presentation, I think, in English, but with a very thick German accent. That was a little bit funny, but I still listened to it because from the first moment I felt like this guy is talking about something that I feel is true. Right about that time, I was starting to uncover that not just do we have our own trauma, but we also carry in ourselves transgenerational trauma. And people are starting to catch on. Like, there's things like, the concepts of nature and nurture, where like the nurture is when you nurture somebody into having a certain set of behavior, and the nature is like passing it down genetically. So apparently both things are happening. You can get trauma symptoms passed down genetically from several generations, and also you can get trauma passed down just from the behavior of your parents. And because kids want to be close with their parents, they're just going to go and pick up that behavior and internalize it and pretend like it's theirs. Very crazy, very crazy. But this is how it works. And I was listening to him and I said, this makes so much sense. Everything that he's saying, that's making sense to me. And oh my God, it's right. Like, our society has just started to respect kids and to respect evolution of children. Not even 100 years ago, kids were being beaten. Everybody tried to break the will of children. Like, kids had a really, really bad and tough upbringing. Life was just different back then. They weren't seen as grown-ups or as future grown-ups. They were just seen as, I don't know, like a necessity of life, I guess. And then they had to help out in the household as soon as possible. They went working into factories. They had to help out on the fields. Like, being a kid was hard labor. And it's just now that our society is kind of waking up and seeing, oh, wait, there's like a method to it. You can actually have a system of bringing up healthy adult children, depending on how you do the education, how you create like the whole family life, how you take care for them, like they want to be cared for. And then if you have kids who are cared for, they're then better, when they're adults, better handling difficult situations. They're more resilient. They're more happy, less prone to depression, and so on. So there have been a lot of studies made around this, and finally, thank God, people are catching on. So Franz Rupert kind of developed this thing, the IOPT, not by starting out with trauma. And this is what I always thought, like, okay, him talking about these kids and trauma and everything, so that's where it is, right? But he actually came from a completely different corner. He actually came from corporate psychology. And when they would have conflicts or like weird situations arise in a company, he was the person who went there and tried to mediate, tried to resolve the conflict, right? And then with psychological methods. Very quickly, he realized this is not at the core. Like the people who are here, they are actually having their family situations. They're reliving those. It has nothing to do with the situation here. It has to do with something when they were small, like when they were kids, and they went into like a tricky situation, and now they're reliving this again. So what did he do? He started doing family psychology to go to the core. And by doing this a couple of years, also then he noticed like it's not really helping people to talk about their families, to do like all these kinds of deeper shades of what went on in their families and trying to heal, because it's not what it is at the core of behavior and different dynamics in a family. It's actually the trauma that lies beneath it. And that's where it got really interesting. So he dove one level deeper, and then he noticed like everything that trauma is doing, he did trauma psychology. All these traumatic experiences that we have, most of them are happening when we are very little, like when we are kids, even unborn, or in the first year of being born. And all of that is shaping our personality. It's shaping our identity. And people later in life will make decisions, will feel feelings, will do everything that is revolving around their identity. Like that's how our psyche works. And this identity is shaped before we are even born. He noticed that we can remember things in our cells, like happening without even maybe have already a completely functioning brain, but there are things that are happening and that kind of our body, mind remembers from very, very, very early stages on. And so IOPT, now as it's developed, it's focusing on exploring and healing these fragmented parts of the self caused by traumatic experiences. So it's a method that is designed to go at the core of the issue at hand, like a traumatic experience that is shaping our identity. That's why it's called identity-oriented. And it's about exploring these and helping you to reintegrate them so that the fragmented part isn't fragmented anymore, but it is incorporated into your sense of self, into your identity. So you actually start becoming more whole again. You actually start feeling like yourself again. The core components of IOPT is like the intention method. So it's about a person coming up and saying, hey, I have this intention that I want to work on. There's something that's going on with me and I want to work on that. And they formulate their own intention. You do have a therapist that is there kind of helping you out with the whole thing, but they are not really going into saying anything about your intention. Like there's a certain set of rules, how you can pose your intention and so on, but nobody can tell you what your intention is. Nobody can tell you what you should or shouldn't say, because this is you. And that's what I love about IOPT. it's centered around your autonomy. It's centered around the autonomy of the person doing it, and not having a therapy kind of method that is trying to put you into a box or trying to make you fit into something. Like, you take your own path. You create your own way, and you are going to face these things that you want to face. Like, when you are ready, they will appear. And there's not a therapist that is going to tell you what's wrong with you or what it isn't, because everything is built on your free will to do it. And it's kind of you getting the support of your healthy parts of your psyche to reintegrate everything that has been split off. So once the intention is set, there comes the resonance process. And the resonance process is something that we'll talk more in depth another time. What it does is it helps you externalize these kind of split off parts of your psyche. When you pose an intention, and the intention could be like, I want to feel safe in relationships. Or the intention could be, I want to be free. Or something like that. That's the intention where you kind of want to go, or what you want to feel, whatever it is. And then you would externalize parts of your psyche. It could be fear. It could be relationships. It could be your will, your want, whatever it is. You kind of put it into an external object or person, and then you will have people mirroring that part to you so you can interact with them. That would be in a group setting. Or in a single setting, you would have like placeholders, like certain, let's say we use felts, so you can stand in, you can have, or different figurines, you can use like small figures to just represent certain parts. And what is beautiful about this is that you get to actually interact with your parts. And all of them are like kind of like a person. They have their own personality and they have their own thing going on. And you get to interact with them. And you get to learn how they feel and about their motivations, why they're doing what they're doing, and why they maybe not doing what you want them to do or what you think they're supposed to do. And that is the beauty of IOPT, like understanding and experiencing this complexity of ourselves as a human being. We maybe look at some practical examples in future. However, best for you to learn about IOPT is to actually be present in a session that's going on and to see how this really looks like. Like for me, before I went to the first session, I never really understood how this could work, how that's happening. And once I was there, like from the first moment, it made complete sense. The whole resonance process, it was just spot on. So if you want to understand how that truly works, I highly suggest you be present in such a constellation. Let's talk about the synergies between letting go and IOPT, and then also about the differences between these two methods. So they are both aiming to free individuals from emotional burdens and to reconnect them with their authentic selves. Basically, both of them are a rediscovery of you. They just take a little bit of a different approach. Letting go is providing somewhat of a very simple and direct method that you can use real time. You don't have to create a setting. You don't have to have other people there. You don't have to have like a therapist or somebody being at your side to do it. You can do it yourself at any point during the day. If something's happening right now, if it's triggering you, you can use the methods of letting go to make a much better situation. Just create different circumstances for yourself because you understand how it works. You understand that it's not the muscle of repressing and resisting, but it's the muscle of accepting and breathing into it. IOPT, on the other hand, it dives really deep into the roots of all these emotions, into all these causes. Because letting go, it's just looking at the sensations and maybe not necessarily showing you the situation that happened in your life that kind of made you have this circumstance for yourself. It kind of made you split off this part. So through IOPT, you can directly reconnect with that part inside of yourself and have a discussion, create a relationship, and reintegrate it. And letting go of resistance to reintegrate it helps you kind of feel all the associated sensations with it. So the practical application of this would be, let's say, somebody feeling fear about rejection in relationships. So what I would work with them on is to specify, like, when do these come up, and then they recognize the triggers when they come up, and then to also realize this is not about the present moment. What I'm experiencing now, it feels like now, but I'm reliving a situation from my past. So that they also can take note and bring it with them. So that they can do inner work themselves. And when they're in the moment, to allow it to happen instead of overreact, instead of getting triggered, and to learn new methods of how to deal with this instead of trying to repress it and to cope with it and then just have no life quality at all, have life happening at them instead of being at the cause. And then with the help of IOPT, when they really want to dive deep and find out, why am I doing these things? Why is this happening to me? To go and uncover the truth about themselves. Having today's episode summarized, a very, very simple way to be free with your emotions and to get into a path of freedom is to learn about how to let go of resistance to experiencing life. Getting the basics of letting go, that is going to help you go to the next level. IOPT will help you uncover and resolve deeper identity-based trauma, and it will kind of change you in a way where you feel more like yourself. You will start rediscovering your true, authentic, not just feelings, but thoughts, but decisions. But you will feel life actually in every shade. And you'll get to experience it much more vividly than kind of like a washed out black and white picture. Together, both approaches, they form a holistic approach to emotional freedom. And they have helped me gain so much life quality and still continue to do so. This work, by the way, is not finished. It's not something you do once or twice and then you're done. It's not a course where you get a diploma at the end, a certificate. I wish it was like that, right? But it's not like that. It's a path of life. It's a process. And it is a rediscovery of ourselves every single day. And it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful. Getting more and more awareness about who we are, about what makes us tick, what we really want, and what we are experiencing out of life. Just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So here's a reflective question for you. What emotion or belief are you ready to let go of today? What have you been holding on to? What have you kind of tried to make part of your identity? And what's the thing that you know you can consciously let go of? Think about that and see if one or two areas come up that can be quite interesting for you to start working on. Also, make sure to share your experience with me if you have tried something similar like this, if you have had any experience with the letting go techniques or with IOPT. I'm really, really curious to know what has your experience been with it. We will have a couple guests on this podcast that are experts in the field and they have been practicing this for a long period, and we'll also hear what they have to share and their unique perspective and take on this. And obviously we're going to go much more in depth. Now, I hope that you got a lot out of this episode, which is just kind of like an overview over all these things. And I'm really, really interested into also hearing your perspective. If you have any comments, any kind of feedback, anything that you want to tell me, make sure to do so. There's comments and you can send me an email. You can contact me on social media. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And also I'm looking forward to the episodes to come where we're going to go much more in depth and look at this thing and really, really cover the basis of how to create an amazing life. I hope you got out a lot of this episode today. Thank you for tuning in. Take care. Have an amazing day. Have an amazing week. And hear you in the next episode. Take care.